Yo, what is up, everyone? Welcome into another episode of Between the Hedges. Thank y'all for tuning in tonight at any point. We definitely appreciate you guys watching. We are on special tonight because we had some big news in Bulldog Nation.
He's
Uh,
back, baby!
the man on your screen returns, y'all. He is back, and I think that's the best news for Georgia since
Merry
Stetson Bennett
Christmas.
since Stetson Bennett returned um, to take us to back-to-back natties. So, without further ado, let's get into what we have for tonight. How are you doing?
Good, good, good. Pretty good day of news for the Bulldogs today. I don't really know how it could have gotten much better. Maybe if Brock Bowers decided to chime in and say he was foregoing the NFL draft to come back for his senior year, then we'd all be on cloud nine. But you know, that man's done just about everything he can in a Bulldog uniform, so it's probably the rightful place for him to move on to the NFL at this point. But I am beyond thrilled to see um, Beck announcing to come back for the next season. Yeah, he earlier he confirmed that he was going to be playing in the bowl game, so that gave us a little tip and a little hint that this might be the way he's thinking. Why would you come back and play in a bowl game if you were just going to turn pro right after that? You know, so he comes out and formally announces, "I'm back, run it back again." So to me, that puts a couple of things on the on the plate for next season. The SEC championship is a possibility next season because Beck's back. The
Yes.
Natty is back on the table because Beck is back. Uh, him being a Heisman contender, possibly favorite, is on the table because he's coming back. And dare I say, at least a top 10 pick if he has a really good season. Possibly top five, or even maybe even an outside chance at the number one overall pick, depending on how good the season goes. It's all on the table.
Yep, and I think that's one of the biggest reasons why he returns, right? Because otherwise he would have been a 1 year starting and done. I know he's been in the program a long time, but another year to develop and increase his draft stock, which I've said before, I think if he did come out, he'd be a top 15 pick. I still think he'd be a first rounder because there's a lot of NFL quarterbacks that just aren't cutting it. A lot of teams that need some
Plus, a
help
lot of
there.
them are getting hurt too. Don't mean to overtalk you there, but a lot of them are getting hurt. So, I mean, they're in short supply just for the fact that they can't stay healthy.
Exactly. And he's got the slow heartbeat, cool, calm, cool, collective. He's accurate. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. So I think he has a bright future ahead of him. I just hope that it ends at Georgia with a national championship
That would
and
be great. Three
Georgia
out of
goes
four.
3 out of 4, which
And got
can
snubbed in the one in the middle there.
gotta pinch myself a little bit because I never thought I'd be saying Georgia 3 out of 4 in my
No,
lifetime.
you and me
Um,
both.
it's incredible this run that Georgia's on, and like you said very well, this just puts everything back on the table. Calms my nerves a little bit. I've said, losing Raiola would be just detrimental to this team because I thought Beck somebody was going to get in his ear and be like, "Yeah, go ahead, go get that first round money." Um, but he's back. He announced it today, just after yesterday, having a press conference at an event for a children's event at Academy, saying I'm going to play in the bowl game if, and he was like, not to, you know, um, kind of mess up his quote here, but he said, in other words, he was like, I guess it's official, if it wasn't already official, like everybody around the team and everybody in the locker room already knew that he was going to play, but he just made it official that he would play yesterday. So here we are. Um, and he did allude to this as well. He's like, we want to finish this season the right way. And that to me means a lot because that shows you the focus that Georgia has going into this bowl game with bowl practices starting today. They officially started gearing up for that today. They're focused on Florida State and not only Florida State, but being the best version of themselves, getting better, having momentum going into the offseason. Florida State is very distracted by the uproar of being left out of this playoff, which Georgia was absolutely left out too. But I think Georgia's laser focused on making a statement here. We'll see in a few weeks.
Speaking of that, quick question for you, not to get on a tangent, but if me and you both are saying Florida State and Georgia deserve to be in the Final Four playoff, which two teams are you taking out for them to be in?
That's tough. I could argue pretty, it would be a lot easier to argue one than two. Um,
Well, I mean, for both of them to be in, two of them, two of the ones that are in have to be out.
yeah. I'm just saying both teams, the argument should have been between Georgia and Florida State, not Alabama and Florida State. Um,
Well,
so
I mean, it's just a hypothetical. I mean, it doesn't really matter at this point. Um,
I
if
guess if
Georgia
I,
would have taken care of their home business, they would have been in it regardless anyway. So that's what happens when you don't take care of your business, get a loss, and you put it in somebody else's hands. So,
very true. I guess if I had to take two out, I guess the two that to go out um, would be Texas and Washington, right? I mean,
so two conference champions get the boot, one of them undefeated, they'd be screaming the same way FSU is.
exactly. That's why it's a no-win
I
situation.
mean, that just goes back to my previous point, one of our previous podcasts, when we were talking about the college football playoff reaction, to who got in and who got left out. This was a very, very unique season where there were six or possibly eight teams that had a good argument to be included in the Final Four. And that has not happened to my knowledge the whole time we've had the playoff. Normally there's two or three or even just one really good team that has separated themselves from everybody else. And then the other the last spot or the last two spots are just filler spots, who happens to be third and fourth. And,
Lambs
basically,
to the slaughter.
yeah, because the semifinals usually haven't been historically, they haven't been very competitive. So, that proves that point that there weren't really four quote unquote deserving teams or whatnot that really had a chance to win it. This year, I could see any one of six or so teams that legitimately could have been in it and won the thing.
Yep. So that's a really good point, and we'll probably keep hammering that one home because that's a good point. Just about the playoff and the transition that we're undergoing. But I wonder if we get to this point next season and say the same thing. I feel like we may not.
We
Uh,
haven't had a season
but
like this the whole
even if
time
we
we've had a
do,
playoff, so I don't think we'll do that when there's 12. I think we'll go more, uh, it'll be even further to the point of seeing teams that possibly don't really belong in a playoff.
yeah,
Those, um, but it'll still be good when there are teams like years like this, um, to where more of the better teams, when there's not a team or two that have totally separated themselves from the pack, that's going to be fun to watch. This year was the perfect year to add the 12 team playoff. If they could have figured out a way to get it done this year, those games that would have resulted this season playoff would have been spectacular to watch all the way
yeah,
around. I don't think you would have got a bad game, except for
no,
whoever was playing the group of five champion that snuck that they, throw them a bone. That might have been the only bad game.
yeah, Tulane. That would have been Florida State Tulane. So
Well, then maybe Tulane would have had a chance because Florida State's quarterback's hurt. You never know.
nah, that
But
defense
but
would
I
have
tell you what,
eaten.
their defense eats. They eat
Yeah,
when they're all healthy and firing. They're eating out there on defense. That's for sure.
yeah, that defense would have eaten Tulane alive. But just I think everyone out there can just tell the excitement in our voice because the last couple of podcasts we've kind of been tiptoeing and little, oh, I don't know, and there's
We
been
just needed
times
word to come out. Just make a freaking decision, man.
we're
Let us
like
know one way or another. So yeah,
we're
it's
like
good that he's back. And tying into that, he announces he's coming back. And then roughly maybe an hour or so later, we get the news. Finally, the much anticipated news. And I guess more than not, most people thought this was the way it was going to happen. Dylan Raiola flips his commitment from Georgia to Nebraska. Um, just makes one pause and think, I wonder if one thing had something to do with the other there. Was it just a coincidence? Beck comes back and Dylan says, bye bye.
I I
I'm
think
going to switch.
these two have been in conversation and behind closed doors or whatever you want to call it over text, personally, one on one. However, I think it'll come out later that we find out that's what happened because for it to for the announcements to be simultaneous almost, you know, Rayola didn't want to compete. That's obvious. Um,
So you're
he
saying he's scared of competition?
I'm not saying he's scared of competition. I don't, I'm not gonna downplay playing time. Playing time's the biggest factor in where you want to go, right? If I
Yep.
were in
Especially when
this,
you're the number one quarterback in the nation, you don't expect to come in and sit and wait your turn.
yeah,
I agree.
if I was in his shoes, where can I go to make a splash? Where can I go to play immediately? Um,
And
because
that's not going to be with Carson Beck on coming back for another year. You're not going to beat him out. I don't care how talented you are.
true
You're not going to win.
freshman, you
You're
know,
not going to win that matchup.
true freshman Kirby number one doesn't like that. I've said that before, but here's the other thing. You know what you're getting with Beck, right? He's the veteran. He's been in the system 3 years. This will be going into year four. He's steady. Like I said before, you know what you're getting. He's the known commodity. And then you've got a young, very wildly talented player who is gonna just being young and not having the experience in the system, also not having the experience at the D1 level in college,
At the SEC level of D1 college
right?
football.
And he's going to be prone to mistakes,
Yep.
uh, as every freshman is. Like Carson Beck would have made mistakes his freshman year.
Don't get me
Luckily,
wrong. I would have loved to see Dylan come to Georgia. I want all the best players to come to Georgia and represent the red and black, and for us to be able to just kick some butt and take names. In today's, the way things run today, is that likely to happen? No, it's less and less likely for that to ever happen again. Now, when you're talking about people throwing around NIL money and you know um, the transfer portal and stuff like that. You're constantly having to assess and reassess and recruit and re-recruit your whole roster year in, year out. And so good luck to Dylan. I have enjoyed learning about him as I've followed his senior year and stuff as he was committed to Georgia. I'll root for him out in Nebraska. I mean, they're in the Big Ten, right? I can't
yeah.
even keep up, but they're in the Big Ten. So anytime they're playing Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, all those guys, go Cornhuskers, man.
Yeah.
I
Go
mean,
Huskers.
I mean, take them down for all I care. I hope he does well. I hope he gets what he wants. I hope he gets the playing time he's looking for. I hope he kills it out there for them.
And here's an interesting thought. You know, he goes out there, gets some playing time, gets a full season under his belt. Carson obviously won't have any more eligibility. Goes to the draft, gets drafted after a nice season. Georgia wins the Natty, and Raiola comes back to UGA a year
I guess it's
later.
always possible with the transfer portal.
You never know.
But I don't think he would be doing himself any favors because he wouldn't be right back in the same position because he wouldn't be battling a returning starter, but he'd still be brand new in our system, having to learn. And because I don't think Nebraska and Georgia run the same offensive system,
No,
so he would
that
be
would,
learning a whole new system under a new coordinator, new head coach. To him, a new coordinator, new head coach, and you know, he would be battling, I would say at that point, um, Stockton, right?
yeah. Who would
Gunner
have
Stockton, who would have 2 years under his belt being in the system. Whether, I mean, it remains to be seen how much playing time he's going to get next season, but I would imagine he'd get some. I mean, you know, Brock Vandegrift got some this season. Um, so,
somebody's got to do the mop up duty. So
so it'd be interesting to watch and see how it all unfolds down the line. And I'll take it a little step further. I wouldn't put it past Kirby Smart that he coordinated it. He got wind when the Rayola announcement was going to be made known public, and he went to Beck, and they knew ahead of time. Yeah, I'm coach. I'm coming back next year. I'm just not ready to announce it. And they found out when, and then they said, "All right, about an hour before, let's release that Beck's coming back." That sort of definitely took some of the limelight away from flipping the number one quarterback in the nation. And it was definitely, I mean, nobody in the Georgia gear is upset that Dylan Raiola decommitted today because they got news that Carson Beck is coming back.
very true. Talk about controlling the narrative. Kirby and Nick Saban are two of the best at that because they literally control every aspect of their program and they do it to the
Well, he's just
highest
so,
level.
yeah, he's so good at the PR side of things like that. So
Would not surprise me at all if that's what happened as well. But here's one other thing I wanted to point out about Raiola. Um, you know, we briefly mentioned his dad playing at Nebraska, so I know that played into the decision. His uncle coaches there, like we've also said briefly before. And, you know, something is to be said about having family ties to a program. Probably grew up pulling, for Nebraska, even though he's lived in Georgia for a while. Um, and again, Nebraska, you know, people forget how good Nebraska was not so long ago, and they have a decent shot next year to they have a pretty light early schedule. I was listening on the radio earlier today, and they could very well have a hot start to their season and end up, an 8 or 9 win team just because of the light schedule that they have. And who's to say that they couldn't sneak into a 12-team playoff or sniff it, So it's not like Raiola is going to as bad of a team as we all think just because of how bad Nebraska's been the last few years. I think they're on the up. They just have too much money, too many donors that care way too much about Nebraska football for them to just continue to suck. So I, I
Good
think
point.
I think Rayola is not just picking the lesser of the two evils and avoiding competition. He's he's going somewhere where he can A, play, B, there's some family ties. C, I'm sure he's getting a good NIL deal because Nebraska's got money. Um, and you could take it a step further and say that, Nebraska's on the up. They have a chance to still be an 8 or 9 win team next year. So who knows? Um, you got anything else to add to that?
Well, that sounds like a good way to wrap it up.
Yep. We appreciate everybody tuning in tonight for this quick episode. Also wanted to make couple of announcements. We will not be doing a show as normally scheduled tomorrow night. I know we didn't do one last night either, just because we were waiting on this news and this news came. So here we are. We're giving it tonight on a Monday. We'll skip tomorrow night, Tuesday, but we'll be in and out during the day on Wednesday to welcome the new signees, the new freshman class to Georgia, either some quick short lives or some shorts just welcoming each commit, and then giving just a quick synopsis of the commit, where he's from, stuff like that. What position he plays, how we think maybe he helps the team next year. Um, and then we can do a wrap up show tomorrow. I mean, not tomorrow, Wednesday night, and kind of recap
Because
the day.
Wednesday is the first d day of the early signing period. So um, most of the these days, most of the big time recruits, that especially ones that have already made a decision, already made a commitment, they will go ahead and sign their national letter of intent on Wednesday and get the party started. A lot of them have already made their way to their respective campuses, started practicing with their bowl teams if the team is bowl eligible. Those new signees are now allowed to come in and partake in the bowl practices, and it just sort of gets their feet wet and gets
Yep.
them started getting ready for their spring season for their freshman years. So yeah, we look forward to talking about that on Wednesday all during the day, having a recap show sometime that evening, going over any, big breaking news, if there are any flips, if there's any surprises. Um, so we'll definitely go through all that. And as it sits right now, Georgia does have the number one ranked recruiting class in the nation. Even without Dylan Raiola committed to it, we still have 27 commitments for this freshman class, and it's still the top ranked class in the nation without him. So it will be a good day for Georgia regardless. The class is just stacked, like Kirby has done just about every year he's been the head coach at Georgia. So it'll be another one stacking on, and be exciting to see how these young guys get acclimated to the team and see what they can do when they get a chance to play.
Yep. Well said. And I'm glad you mentioned those guys already getting here and getting acclimated because real quickly, I guess the biggest name left in this class, if you want to say it, the household name is Ryan Puglisi, who's the other quarterback that we have committed. He's already here in Athens. He's practicing today. Today was day one for him, early enrollee. Still a four-star quarterback. I know Raiola was a five, but a lot of people that really know these two guys really well actually think Puglisi will end up being a better quarterback. We will see. It's not always five stars and the flashy guys that are the best. So I'm excited to see what he can do if maybe he snags that backup quarterback role. You never know. But I'm just glad that he's already here and he's getting to, you know, see what a real defense looks like and start getting some reps against them. So it's an exciting time still to be a UGA football fan. These are the glory days. We'll look back years from now
Fondly.
and say these were the glory days. I know a lot of people say that about the 80s, but I think it's time to say that
Oh,
this now
you
surpasses
know,
that.
I've said that for at least a year now, that even before we won back to back, I was saying the way Kirby's got this going, it's it's the good old days. It will go down as the best time in Georgia football history by the time he's done with it. Back to back national champions, and for every foreseeable future, you don't see a time where Georgia's not going to be in the conversation for compete for national championships in football. So
Yeah.
definitely, definitely the good old days right now. Enjoy it while it lasts.
I'm gonna soak it up. Like I said, I growing up, I never thought these days would come, but they're here. So it's very exciting. And I'm excited for these young men who are making a huge step in their career. And we're just excited to see them grow and learn and become the stars that end up, you know, being
Winning
the
the next
stars.
one.
Yep, being the stars of tomorrow, being the next group, being the next dominant senior class like we just had come through that literally did not lose hardly at all, which is very,
Well,
very
you lose
impressive.
one game in 3 seasons.
That's hard to do. That is historic. Um, so we need to give this class their props because not many can ever say that.
Yep.
But we appreciate it, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. If you watch this later, we really appreciate it. If you like what you're, hearing and seeing from us, and you want to support us, just hit the like button, share it with your friends, subscribe if you really want to keep tuning in and hitting the alerts, to know when we go live, when we go special, like tonight or Wednesday night on our it's not on our normal schedule. So definitely do that. We appreciate it. Y'all have a good night. And as always,
Go
go
Dogs.
dogs.